They say that truth hides in the small details, but in my profession, truth lives in the sub-zero hum of a cooling unit keeping 10,000 terabytes of classified military data from melting through the floor. My name is Clint Vance. I am 55 years old, and for a decade, I was the Director of Security Operations for Apex Digital Defense. We managed 10 data centers spread across the cold, jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains. These were not your average facilities hosting cat videos and social media feeds. These were high-security strongholds for digital intelligence. We held contracts with the Department of Defense. The kind of contracts that do not have logos, just alphanumeric designations and security clearance levels that require a biometric scan to review. I loved the cold. My office was kept at a brisk 64 degrees, matching the ambient temperature of the server floors. I did not keep family photos on my desk, nor did I hang motivational posters on the walls. My walls were lined with monitors displaying thermal heat maps, packet traffic logs, and live feeds of the biometric airlocks. That network was my family. I pruned the weak code, updated the firewalls, and removed incompetence at the first sign of trouble. It was a Tuesday when the first crack in the hull appeared. I was down on the floor of Sector 4, watching a junior technician named Toby Evans trying to hot swap a drive on a Tier 1 rack. Toby looked like he was 20 years old and lived on energy drinks. I walked up behind him and spoke. My voice does not echo in there because the soundproofing absorbs it. Toby jumped, nearly dropping a drive worth more than his vehicle. I told him that if he dropped it, he would have to answer to the men in suits who never smile. He had not grounded himself, and I could see the static potential on his jacket. I took the drive from his hands and slotted it in myself. The green lights flickered, indicating order was restored. But the real problem was not on the server floor. The issue was upstairs in the executive suite. For the last 10 years, I had kept our federal contracts secure by running a tight department. But the old chief executive officer had retired. The new chief executive officer was Julian Thorne. Julian wore expensive loafers without socks and had teeth so white they looked artificial. He was obsessed with disruption and synergy, words that mean nothing when a botnet is hammering your firewall at 3 in the morning. Julian did not care about defense specifications. He cared about stock prices and company culture. I went up to the 10th floor to meet him. The air smelled of lavender and expensive coffee. I walked past the collaboration pods where young staff members were sitting in beanbag chairs. Julian had sent me a meeting invitation titled Touch Base, Vision, and Vibes. I hated the word vibes. You cannot encrypt a vibe. You cannot firewall a vibe. In his glass office, Julian was sitting with his daughter, Chloe Thorne, who was 24 years old and had recently been appointed vice president of Brand Voice. Next to her was her cousin, Hunter Pierce. Hunter was wearing a designer hoodie that probably cost $600. He was scrolling on his phone, looking completely detached. Julian welcomed me and announced that the company was transitioning. He said they wanted to humanize the data. I told him that we host targeting telemetry and that target data should be accurate, not humanized. Chloe chimed in, calling me a gatekeeper. I told her that keeping the gate was literally my job. Julian then introduced Hunter Pierce as the new chief of cyber culture and data innovation. Hunter said he had ideas for an open dashboard to democratize access so clients could feel their data. My heart rate slowed down, which is my natural response to a threat. I asked Julian if Hunter had a federal security clearance. I warned him that if Hunter touched a Tier 1 terminal, we would be in violation of federal statutes. Julian laughed and said Hunter was a digital native who had run a chat server with 10,000 members. Chloe giggled and said Hunter had been banned from that server, which she called iconic. I stood up, knowing what was coming. I told them they were firing me. Julian corrected me, saying they were transitioning my role. I summarized that they were replacing a 20-year security veteran and former government analyst with a chat room moderator. Chloe insisted he was chief of cyber culture. I looked at Hunter, who was picking at his nails. I asked for the paperwork. Julian said human resources had it ready and that they needed my badge immediately. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the keycard that controlled the flow of security for the Western Seaboard, and laid it on the table. I walked out without another word. They thought they were removing a barrier. They They did not realize they were pulling the control rod out of a reactor. I did not leave the building immediately. Technically, I had 2 hours to collect my personal effects, which is corporate terminology for having someone watch you to ensure you do not take a stapler. A human resources representative named Mia Jenkins hovered by my office door while I packed. Mia looked like she was 19 and was visibly intimidated by me. I placed my spare sweater, a bottle of aspirin, and my security certification plaques into a cardboard box. While I was clearing out my desk, the announcement went out. It was not an email. Instead, it was a live stream notification that pinged every phone in the facility, including my own, which had not yet been wiped. It was a mandatory town hall meeting to introduce the new era and welcome Hunter Pierce. I could see the main floor from my office window, which overlooked the server operations center. Employees were gathering, looking perplexed. The seasoned network engineers, men with graying hair and coffee stains on their shirts, looked like they were walking to their own execution. The marketing team, however, looked thrilled. I decided to watch the proceedings. Julian Thorne took the stage, holding a microphone like a stand-up comedian. He spoke about having big energy and a huge future. The applause was polite but scattered. Julian then announced my departure, saying that to reach the next level, they needed to shed the old skin and be agile. He welcomed Hunter Pierce to the stage. Hunter jogged up, wearing sunglasses indoors within a secure government-cleared facility. He grabbed the microphone and yelled, "Hello, Data family." I felt a small part of my soul wither. Hunter paced the stage, complaining about the strict security rules. He said that Data wants to be free and announced they would open the main interface, stream uptime statistics on public channels, and put colorful lights on the server racks to make them less boring. Down on the server floor, I saw my lead network architect, Grant Cooper, put his face in his hands. Hunter continued, telling everyone that security was a mindset, not a firewall, and that positive vibes could block negative packets. It was the most absurd statement I had ever heard. Mia Jenkins coughed and asked if I was almost done. I picked up a thick black binder from the bottom drawer. The spine simply read, Tier 1 Protocols and Emergency Failsafes. This binder contained the manual override codes, the emergency contact numbers for the Pentagon, the encryption keys, and the strict chain of custody procedures required by federal law. It was the operating manual of that building. I looked at the binder, then at Hunter on the stage, who was demonstrating a social media dance. I had a choice. I could give him the binder and explain the gravity of the national security systems he was endangering. But I knew they would not read it. They would throw it away because it was not a digital document with animation. I put the binder in my box. Mia asked if it was personal property. I told her it was my personal notes and contained nothing proprietary. She let it pass. I carried the box to the parking lot and placed it in the passenger seat of my truck. I patted the binder, telling it they would miss it soon. I started my engine and drove out of the lot, checking my rear-view mirror. The building looked quiet in the afternoon sun. I gave it a week. Entropy is patient, but incompetence is fast. I want to be extremely clear. I did not sabotage the system. I did not plant a digital bomb, nor did I write code to erase databases. I am a professional and a patriot. Sabotage is a crime, and I was not going to jail for these people. I simply stopped holding up the structure, the systems I designed were based on a zero-trust model. They did not trust the public network. They did not trust the internal network, and they certainly did not trust a new hire in a designer hoodie. The core of our compliance with the Department of Defense was an automated heartbeat handshake. Every 72 hours, the Tier 1 servers required a manual authentication token. This token had to be generated by a certified security officer, which was myself, using a specific physical cryptographic key on a dedicated terminal that had no connection to the outside world. If that handshake was not received within the 72-hour window, the system assumed the facility had been physically overrun by hostile forces. The system would lock down, severing all external lines, encrypting local drives with a 49.6-bit key, and sending a silent distress signal to the Pentagon. Hunter Pierce did not know about this check. He was too busy setting up a relaxation zone in the server room. I drove home to my cabin, which is located 40 miles out of town in the foothills of the mountains. There are no neighbors, only towering pine trees and spotty cellular service, which is exactly how I like it. I unpacked my box, placed my plaques on the fireplace mantel, and locked the black binder inside my gun safe, right next to my birth certificate and my grandfather's service pistol. Then I made a cup of hot black tea and sat on the porch, waiting. The first 24 hours were quiet. I imagined Hunter Pierce was busy exploring, finding out where the vending machines were, and setting up recording equipment for his online posts. On the second day, my phone buzzed. It was a text message from Grant Cooper. Grant wrote, "Clint, are you serious about leaving?" I replied, "Absolutely serious, Grant. I am out." Grant texted back, "This guy is a disaster. He just asked if we can route the server cooling system exhaust to heat the employee lounge floor because his feet are cold." I replied, "Do not let him do that, Grant. The moisture buildup will destroy the hardware." Grant wrote back I told him that, but he said I had negative energy. "Clint, he is asking for the admin passwords and root access to the entire directory." I took a sip of my tea and looked at the sunset painting the mountain peaks in purple and gold. I typed, "Do not give him root access, Grant. You know the protocol. If he is not on the authorized personnel list, providing him administrative access is a direct violation of our federal data protection contract." Grant replied, "I told him that. He said he is the chief of cyber culture and that he outranks the list. He is threatening to fire me if I do not comply." I typed back, "Let him fire you. If he fires you, you get a significant severance package under corporate policy. If you give him the credentials and the federal investigators find out, you go to a military prison." Grant wrote, "God help us." I put my phone down. I could feel the stress radiating from the device. The struggle was starting. Hunter was hitting the first barrier of security permissions. In his world of social media and chat servers, if you bought a service, you owned it. In my world, nobody owns the security. The security owns you. I checked my watch. It had been 30 hours since I generated the last heartbeat token. That meant they had 42 hours remaining before the system initiated its automatic compliance review. I decided to do some gardening. I have a patch of tomatoes behind the cabin. Pulling weeds is peaceful. You remove the invader, the soil breathes and the plant thrives. It is simple, binary, and direct. As I pulled a stubborn root, I thought about the reports Julian Thorne was probably presenting to the board of directors. He was likely bragging about streamlined efficiency and new energetic leadership. They were probably celebrating my departure with a party. "Good riddance to the gatekeeper," they would say. I shook the dirt from my gloves. The thing about cyber culture is that it does not account for the physical reality of heat and electricity. Hunter Pierce was about to learn that you cannot influence a circuit breaker or argue with a security protocol. My phone buzzed again with a notification. Hunter Pierce had viewed my professional profile online multiple times. I laughed, a dry sound that startled a blue jay. He was looking for credentials. He was looking for the keys. He had probably realized that most of the administrative panels were locked, and he could not understand why. He would not find the answers online. The answers were in a safe, in a cabin he did not know existed. The texts from the inside continued to arrive, like distress signals from a sinking vessel. Grant texted 48 hours since departure. He is bringing in external consultants. They are associates from his digital currency mining group. They are walking around the server floors with unverified personal computers. Clint, they are plugging directly into the diagnostic ports. I read the text and felt a spike of genuine concern. Not for my job, but for the integrity of the data. Connecting an unverified machine to a Tier 1 defense diagnostic port is like entering a quarantine ward without a mask. It is reckless. I type back, "Log everything, Grant. Document every timestamp, every physical description, and every hardware address you can see. Do not interfere. Just observe." I was not being petty. I was building a case file, because when the federal inquiry started, I wanted to ensure the blast radius did not hit the honest engineers like Grant. By Friday afternoon, the 72-hour heartbeat window was closing. I was sitting at my kitchen table, cleaning my grandfather's service pistol. It is a slow, rhythmic process. Disassemble, clean, lubricate, reassemble. Click, slide, snap. My personal computer was open to the public-facing status page of the company's network. The indicator lights were green, but only for a few more hours. Then a new notification appeared on my screen. This time it was a phone call from an unknown number. I let it ring twice before picking up and stating my name. Julian Thorne's voice came through, sounding tense and strained. The vibes were clearly no longer immaculate. "Clint," Julian said, attempting to sound friendly. "We are having a small technical difficulty. Hunter is adjusting to the system configuration. He is asking for the master override passcode for the legacy containment protocol." I asked, "The legacy containment protocol? You mean the heartbeat check?" Julian sighed. "Yes, that check. The system indicator is flashing red on the executive board. It is causing concern and disrupting our workflow. Hunter says it is just a redundant glitch you left behind to cause trouble." I told him, "It is not a glitch, Julian. It is a dead man's switch. It ensures that a certified security officer is running the system." Julian snapped, "Well, Hunter is the security officer now. Just give me the passcode and we can resolve this. We will pay you a consulting fee of $500. I almost dropped the cleaning rag. $500. I told him, "Julian, that system protects national security assets, and you want me to hand over federal encryption access to an unvetted person for $500? Julian pleaded, "Clint, do not be difficult. Just tell us the code." I replied, "I cannot. The passcode changes automatically after every handshake. It is generated by a physical token that is currently locked in my safe." Julian yelled, "Where is that token?" I told him I had left it in the box with my badge. There was silence on the line. Then Julian muttered, "We threw that box away. Hunter said it contained useless artifacts." I closed my eyes. "You threw away the hardware security token?" Julian screamed. "It looked like a small electronic game. How were we supposed to know?" I told him, "Then you have a major problem, Julian, because without that token, you cannot verify the heartbeat check. In less than 4 hours, the system will initiate a total lockdown." Julian threatened, "Hunter says he can bypass it. He says he can rewrite the kernel to disable the check." My blood ran cold, I said. "Julian, listen to me. If Hunter attempts to modify the kernel on live defense servers, the intrusion detection system will treat it as a hostile foreign cyber attack. The system will destroy its own keys and lock down." Julian laughed. "You are just trying to frighten us because you want your job back. It is not happening. Hunter is a genius, and he will fix your mistake." He hung up. I sat in the silence of my cabin. A genius. He called him a genius. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Grant Cooper. I wrote, "Get out of the building now. Tell the entire engineering team to leave immediately. Pull the fire alarm if necessary, but leave the facility." Grant replied, "Why? What is happening?" I typed, "Hunter is going to attempt to patch the server kernel." Grant replied, "I am leaving now. I am taking the team to the restaurant across the street." I typed back, "Excellent decision. Order food and I will pay for it." I closed my laptop. I did not need to monitor the status screen anymore. I knew exactly what would occur. It is like watching a collision in slow motion. You do not need to witness the impact to know the window will shatter. I poured a glass of white wine and sat by the window. Night fell, and the moon illuminated the valley. At 9 o'clock in the evening, my phone rang. It was not Julian Thorne, and it was not Grant Cooper. The caller identification screen was blank. I answered immediately. The voice on the other end was deep and gravelly. It was General Hugh Bradley. We had worked together to build the security architecture years ago. Bradley said, "Clint, we have lost the heartbeat check on sectors 4 through 9. We are detecting a massive automated encryption event. Are you under attack?" I took a sip of my sun and said, "I do not know, General. I do not work there anymore. I was dismissed on Tuesday. They wanted a change in direction." Bradley repeated, "A change in direction? Who is running the security?" I replied, "A young relative of the chief executive officer named Hunter Pierce. His credentials consist of managing a chat server and posting short videos online." Bradley was silent for a moment. Then he said, "You must be joking." I replied, "I wish I were, General. They threw away the physical token, ignored the protocols, and the chief executive officer informed me that Hunter was going to rewrite the kernel to bypass the check." Bradley said, "Rewrite the kernel on a live Tier 1 node? That triggers the automatic defense protocol." I replied, "Yes, sir. The system treats the facility as captured. It destroys the keys and cuts the network trunk lines." I warned them, but they refused to listen. Bradley sighed. "Clint, are you in a secure location?" I confirmed I was at my residence. He said, "Stay there. Do not contact the company. If they call, do not assist them." You are a civilian now. Let them face the consequences. I am starting a Level 4 military audit. We will see what this new director can do. I requested, General, please remember my engineering team. Grant and the others tried to prevent this. I told them to leave before the colonel was touched. Bradley said, noted. We will limit the consequences to the executives. I checked social media. Hunter Pierce had posted a message 2 hours earlier. He wrote, working late to rewrite some outdated code and free the data. The old management did not know how to optimize, about to multiply the performance. He had attached a photograph of himself smiling in front of a computer screen. I zoomed in on the display behind him. The terminal screen was red. He had executed a command to delete the security daemon. He did not multiply the performance. He destroyed the company's existence. I went to bed and slept peacefully. The next morning at 7 o'clock, my phone was ringing continuously. I had missed 42 calls from Julian Thorne, 10 from Chloe Thorne, and 2 from Hunter Pierce. I ignored them all, prepared coffee, and walked onto the deck to watch the morning mist rise off the hills. Then I opened my computer. The technical community was in a state of chaos. Discussion forums reported that Apex Digital Defense had completely disappeared from the network block routing. The entire business was offline. Hunter Pierce was streaming live from the server floor. The stream was titled Crisis Management and Saving Data from Haters. I clicked the link. Hunter looked exhausted. His designer clothing was stained, and he was holding an energy drink. He was pacing in front of the locked server racks, where red emergency lights were flashing. He claimed that the legacy code was broken and that I had left a logic bomb. He pointed the camera at the servers and said they were performing a reset and attempting to physically force open the security cages. The video showed 2 associates using a metal tool to pry open a server door. My mouth opened in disbelief. The server racks were equipped with pressure and temperature sensors. If you force the door, the automatic fire suppression triggers. On the video, a loud hiss was heard, and a white cloud of cooling gas erupted, filling the room. Hunter coughed and shouted that it was a minor setback. He pointed the camera at a monitor displaying the warning message, "Unauthorized access detected, Department of Defense protocol initiated." Below it was a list of active network subnets. Hunter had just broadcasted classified routing numbers to thousands of online viewers. I did not need to contact the authorities. The viewers on the stream were already documenting the breach. I saw movement on the screen. In the background, Julian Thorne was banging on the glass window from the office above, looking purple with anger. I closed the computer. I went to my wardrobe and chose a dark blue business suit. I had a feeling I would be traveling soon. My phone rang, and Julian Thorne's voice pleaded through the voicemail. He cried, "Clint, please help. The military police are here. There are armored vehicles in the parking lot. Help us." I smiled, saying to the empty room that his problem was outside my scope of work. By 10 o'clock, the local news channels were broadcasting live from our building. The headlines reported a federal response to a national security threat. Helicopters circled, and armored personnel carriers blocked the entrance. Soldiers in tactical gear escorted employees out of the building. I saw Grant Cooper walking out, showing documents to an officer. He was safe because he had the logs. Julian Thorne was led out in handcuffs, weeping. Next was Chloe Thorne, shouting at the guards. Finally, Hunter Pierce was dragged out, his designer clothing torn, looking like a child who had broken a valuable object. My phone rang, and General Bradley said, "Clint, we have secured the facility. The threat is neutralized." The young man in the hoodie tried to tell my officers it was a social media video. "We have a mess here. The operating system is corrupted, the hardware is damaged, and we need the handshake restored." "But we cannot do it without the architect," I replied. "That sounds like a complex problem, General." Bradley said, "Clint, do not make me plead. I am a general. I do not plead, I order." I said, "You cannot order me, General. I am an unemployed civilian." Bradley laughed. "All right, how about this? I have the authority to appoint an interim federal administrator for this facility. You will have full authority, direct reporting to the Pentagon, no corporate oversight, and a contracting bonus that will make you smile. You hire who you want, and if anyone mentions vibes, you can dismiss them." I told him I would need transport. He replied that a helicopter was 5 minutes away. I opened my safe. took the black binder, and walked to the clearing. A military helicopter landed, and I stepped inside. When I arrived, the lobby was a command post. I took the elevator to the 10th floor, where General Bradley was waiting. I placed the binder on the desk, opened page 42, and plugged my computer into the network line. I entered the 64-character override sequence. The terminal asked for the authentication key. I reached into my pocket. I had not told Julian Thorne that the master token, issued to me by the government 10 years ago, never left my keychain. I plugged it in. The red indicators turned to green, and the cooling fans returned to a quiet hum. "We are online," I said. 6 months later, the office is silent and orderly. The beanbag chairs are gone, replaced by gray workstations. We drink our coffee black. My office door reads Director of Federal Data Operations. The old company is dissolved, and its assets are seized. Julian Thorne is bankrupt and managing a vehicle wash. Chloe is attempting to host a podcast, but has no listeners. And Hunter Pierce accepted a legal plea agreement. He is serving 5 years in a federal facility, followed by a lifetime restriction on computer use. I walked down to the server floor. The B-flat drone of the cooling fans was quiet. Grant Cooper was checking a rack. He is my deputy now. I put my hand on the metal panel. It was cold. The world does not run on vibes or social media popularity. It runs on physical cables, secure servers, and the boring professionals who sit in cold rooms and ensure the lights stay green.